Pivot in Progress. Um, Today's episode is a very special one and a very important one because the topic that we are dealing with today is something that spans across geographies for many people, because we're going to talk a lot about the US job market. And the reason that I say that it spans across geographies is, firstly, there are many people in US and outside of US who are aiming for US based roles or with US companies. And we know that US is a bellwether. It's an indicator of what's to come for the entire world from a job market perspective. So given the challenges and the opportunities of the current US job market are evolving very rapidly, we think this topic deserves a lot of in-depth understanding so that we can tackle it in the right manner going forward, since things are changing so rapidly. Now, without further ado, I want to bring on our key speaker for today, Rakshit Goyal, who is already here backstage with us. So I will bring Rakshit in just a second. All right, great. Hey, Rakshit, how are you
Hey
doing?
Arjun, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me today. How's everything going on with you?
Absolutely great. I think we came in touch recently, but I was going through your profile and your background, and you and I have also had a chat. And I really do think that you're the right person for this conversation, because there's so much change happening in US, and especially from a job market perspective, it's impacting people at the mid to senior level a lot, and it's also impacting, as we all know, the immigrant population a lot, right?
Right.
So uh, while there are many segments of the demographics that are being impacted, these are the specific areas, and I think you have done a lot of good, interesting work in helping people in both of these areas, right? In the mid senior levels as
Yeah.
well
Yep.
as the immigrant population. So I think maybe
Mhm.
where we can start is just do a quick round of intros for people
Sure.
who might not know us. So I'll just go first quickly. And so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Arjun, and I'm the founder of Pivot. What we do at Pivot is help people accomplish their most ambitious career goals. So anytime a person is thinking about transitioning, not just from one company to another, but let's say change their domain, their industry, their level in the organization, going from IC to, let's say, manager or leadership role, these are all different types of transitions that we help with. And we do it through AI powered tools, but also connections to industry professionals and experts, right? So we'll talk more about that during the course of the conversation. But I'll turn it over to Rakshit. Rakshit, welcome again. And if you could just share a little bit about your journey and what you do today, that would be great.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much, Arjun. First of all, uh, having me on this platform, and I really appreciate the work Pivot has done all over the years. So I've been in US for almost 9 years now. I came here for my master's in UT Dallas. Right after my master's, I got uh, the opportunity working in finance with Oyo Hotels when the Indian Oyo rooms when they expanded to the US. So I got the opportunity to work from with them in the US, and then I moved to Amazon as a finance professional. That was right in pandemic because Oyo was in hospitality industry and everything crashed. So that was there, and then after working 4 years with Amazon, I got an opportunity to work with Microsoft. But all these years, I have been very keenly interested in how you see people talking about job search and how things going on, and I think you and me both have seen this firsthand in our experience on how job search is a full-time job in itself. So I've done this myself for over 12 to 13 years in my career back in India and in the US, and I thought I would pivot my career towards career coaching and mentorship, and that's why I founded that Indian Coach. In the last 12 to 13 years, I've been able to guide over 500 students and professionals, especially immigrant population, because I think in the US that's the biggest challenge. It's a new territory for everyone who's landing in this new state, and this really helps them to get an opportunity. And my goal was that people probably should not face the same what we did when we moved to the US, so
Yeah,
it helps them to get a kickstart.
perfect. No, yeah, I think, it's interesting. and this is what we'll start off with. But I think it's interesting how the job markets are sort of evolving and getting reshaped, um, both in terms of the supply and demand dynamics. Like the demand obviously is changing because companies are undergoing layoffs, and there's a lot of tech evolution from an AI perspective that's happening. But I think also from a supply perspective, what we are realizing is that while there's a continuation of new immigrant population that's coming into US, a lot of new
Hmm.
students still coming in, but at the same time, a lot of people are holding off on their plans to come to US and thinking about going to
For
other
sure.
countries, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so yeah, maybe we can start by sort of dissecting the overall job market that US has currently, especially for I would say mid-level professionals or people who are coming here for masters and thinking about landing a premium role after their education.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the very first thing that comes to my mind when I came to the US, I honestly did not have a plan when I moved to the US. I did not even know the meaning of what a major mean. I still remember I was filling up the forms and everything, and uh, I saw major there because in India it's either called course or stream. So I was really that kind of person who was unaware. So back then, I think back in 2017, there was, because there was not much chaos happening around the immigrant population and political environment. That was, I think, the biggest factor that has led to this change of why people have started to look for options other than the US. Because if you think about 8, 10 years ago, if you think about your masters or bachelors and you're thinking about abroad, the very first option you would think about is the US and then everything else. Even when US is one of the most expensive places you can go for your masters, it was still the option. Right now, I think the biggest factor has been the restrictions and the political environment change. And then secondly, the factor also comes in with the skill set and skill set advancement. Earlier, when people used to come to the US, the goal was to build an American life, which was based out of roles and titles. The
Hmm.
bigger the role or better the role, that changes. Now it has changed towards the factor of the hiring is done on the basis of skills. It doesn't matter if you are a finance manager or a software developer engineer 3, or if you are a data platforms director. Those titles don't matter anymore. What kind of skills do you have? Are they relevant for the companies that are hiring, or what are you looking for? And hiring managers are looking for. That is something into the factor of the overall idea of coming to US and thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think let's expand a little bit more on that, right? Like the skills part and the hiring manager requirements part. So, I mean, I think from a geopolitical landscape standpoint, obviously, I think what you are alluding to is US becoming, and most of the other international markets also becoming slightly more challenging for
Yeah.
candidates to crack because most of these traditionally open countries are becoming a bit more restrictive and prioritizing homegrown or local talent, as they say. And that part I completely agree. Although it's a moving target. Like there's a lot of new laws that come in every day. Um, you know, the, even the laws that have uh, been announced sometimes don't get enforced
Yeah.
because of the legal back and forth that keeps happening,
Right. But
right? So there's a lot of like I think lack of clarity, and people just feel like it's a bit of a black box right now. Should we go ahead and do it, or should we, because there's so much uncertainty, hold off and do something else, go somewhere else? um, so I think maybe if you can talk a little bit about this aspect first, right? Like in terms of how people can navigate the lack of certainty, lack of clarity around the geopolitical landscape.
I think uh, in everything, and I've seen this as a coach, I've realized that everything comes down to your own expectations and and your own goals. What are your expectations when you're thinking about moving abroad, right? No matter what geopolitical scenario is, and particularly talking about, if we first talk about geopolitical scenario, it's simply that earlier these countries wanted more talents, more skilled labor, and I think the Asian and African markets always had, probably more population. That was the reason, and they were had high skilled labor. And of course, the factor comes in that the cost of living is not so very high in those countries. So people having to get the leverage to move to different countries and think about it is a factor, right? And then the second part of it is that the expectations and the vision you bring in. You got to very first way decide when you're trying to move abroad for your masters, your bachelors, or if just moving for finding a new job. Why are you doing it? There has to be a factor for it. There has to be a reason for it. If it's something that you're trying to find a good opportunity, if it's something that you're trying to build a new home at a new place, and if it's something that has to be about the world's technological environment, how things are working out there. Because technology is one factor, and now AI is into place. With this factor, people have been able to understand, they are able to understand how things work. And now there's an outgrown curiosity as well in people when they're looking for different roles and they want to do more things. So when this factor comes in, their expectation changes that, okay, is US is the right place, or let's say is Ireland is the right place for them, right?
Yeah.
And with those factors, then you first decide that how do you start probably make with make a list of those things. You start with those matching of what things work out for you, what things will not work out for you, and where's the match there, and then you make a decision for it. Then of course, then you start making decision for it, and then you think about what is particularly that you're interested in. Is it something advanced education you're interested in, or just a different career opportunity you're looking for it, right? And then you can of course get into this new country or new city and transition into those markets and get in touch with people and start talking to them. That's where it starts. But the very first basic thing, I always tell this to my all my mentees, is that you have to understand, you have to identify what is your goal and what are the expectations that you have for this. If you have that clarity, it really helps you to move forward there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that because I think you can't control certain things outside of yourself. You can't
Mhm.
control what laws US or any other country is going to enact.
Yeah.
You can't control how many companies are going to lay off for how long and whether your role is going to be at risk or not. But I think that aspect that you highlighted is more of uh, you know a factor that's within your span of control. And if your requirement is to move to a specific country, um, or you're open to evaluating different countries, so if you have the clarity yourself on what are your biggest priorities, then I think it becomes slightly easier for you to map out whether that country or the opportunities outside of that country are a better fit for you, right? Otherwise you're
Absolutely.
always kind of trying to chase your own tail, as they say, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just hard to always be aligned with what's happening externally in the market. So I do appreciate that insight, Rakshit. Tell me a little bit more about the layoff situation, right? Like I think the geopolitical situation and the anti-immigrant environment, like we understood and we kind of covered that at a high level. We'll dive deeper later. But at a high level, can you talk a bit more about layoffs? Because there's no end in sight. It's been happening for almost 3 years.
Yeah.
Um, Companies are even further accelerating it, if anything. I mean, if you look at Amazon, what they just did, I mean, one of the biggest layoffs that's ever happened. And what the CEO has committed is even more mind boggling, which is that they will reduce the entire workforce by like more than 10% in the very, very near future. And 10% is for them like I think it's like more than
200,000.
150,000 to
Yeah.
200,000 people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So and that's just one company, right? So what is happening and how do people make sense of that? I mean, most people are very scared and feeling like they don't know how to navigate this. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
No, I think you brought a great point, and as a career coach, and the entire community is a career coach, there was a time when layoffs and these things were probably happening because the companies were going into restructures, and that was the only reason for it, right? And we as career coaches as well, we always thought that how do we position our mentees, how do we position them, because our goal is not just for them to get a job, but that a job that secures their future, right? But when it comes to these new type of layoffs, I would call it new type of layoff, because particularly if you think about it, Arjun, you've been in US more, I think, more, if you talk about it, like almost 15 years, right? So you've seen that how things really, change here every day, right? And when
Mhm.
it comes to layoffs, it is nothing new for this country. It has happened, I think, since like forever. But whenever there has been a new transition of a technology or an environment or an industry, it has always banged on everyone's head. Now it's we all are feeling the more heat of it, is because the numbers are very high and the things are transitioning in a very, very fast manner. If you think about it, you talk about Amazon. I've worked there. I've worked in Microsoft as well. And there's one very, you know, I think a different scenario nobody ever imagined, that a Microsoft, a company which was known for its culture and known for its employee engagement and those kind of things, like people used to join it for that very purpose.
Yeah.
If you would really, it's a funny comparison, but if you would really call it, Microsoft was the Sarkari or government companies in India. Like you
Yeah.
you join the
Yeah.
company and
I
you
like
just
that.
sit there, and
Yeah.
you're there for a long period of time. And
Especially
the life,
compared to the other large tech companies, which were much
absolutely,
more like fast
yeah,
moving, ambitious. Yeah.
absolutely right. And Microsoft was also a company which was never too probably aggressive or too talked about openly about how ambitious they are. But probably
Correct.
with the transition of AI coming into the picture for everyone, and how the world is changing, and it's not just about the companies. I mean, it's us as shareholders, we as users, we want things to move fast and fast and fast, right? So the biggest factor here for layoffs when it came to Microsoft, they kept on doing it for every 3 months. Now, if you actually think about it, Microsoft has a workforce of 100,000 people, and they have laid off over 15,000 people in just last 2 years
Oh, wow.
for 100,000 people. Meta has a workforce of 100,000 people, less than 100,000 people. In last 3 years, they have had layoffs so many times since the day they changed the name from Facebook to Meta, that you can, if you compare, then maybe the entire churn of the company has been, moved. A
Yeah.
very less population of the employees who were there for a very long period of time are there.
Correct.
Amazon
Yeah.
is a factor there. But I think AI has come into this picture, which is working as a catalyst, a bad catalyst for the job seekers, because a company like Amazon, which was hiring at a rate of 100 employees a day during pandemic,
Hmm.
they have laid off 14,000 people just last week, and they will be
Hmm.
laying off 16,000 more in January.
Yeah.
So that is one thing which is very scary for job seekers. But how this is different for the current scenario, for AI and the previous one, I think it's the basic factor of, they want to the companies are trying to put in more money
Yeah.
towards AI infrastructure development, data centers, and those things. And it's not that, honestly, it's not that they don't need employees, they don't need people who don't know AI. I'm not saying that don't invest your skills in AI. It's very important. You grow with it and you will keep yourself relevant. But there are still people in the still business who work without AI, who still do not, have so much needs in AI. But the very factor here that is that when people have those certain needs there,
Mhm.
companies have to respond to their shareholders. They
Yeah.
have to work towards the expectations of what we as shareholders want, building that
Mhm.
infrastructure. And now when that comes into factor, if you think about it, Nvidia had got a very big stake from SoftBank until just like probably few days ago. And SoftBank sold its entire stake of almost $6 billion of Nvidia.
Yeah. Correct.
Why? Because they want to invest into data infrastructures. They
Hmm.
want to invest into the AI infrastructures. So this layoffs will keep on going for the next few years. I think every 3 months you will be hearing this. It's not going to go away soon. But then with every layoff, if you see, and there's always been a trend because it's not a recession. This is just restructuring of the world on how they are thinking about the job structures in the market. So I think that is the bigger factor. If you keep looking at it, if you think about it, the companies are still hiring. They're still
Mhm.
filling those roles because they need people probably a little more skilled, a little more advanced in those technologies. And if they are hiring, and obviously AI will automate things, and the jobs will become more skilled. But with that
Yeah.
factor, you get the opportunity of getting higher paid jobs, more skilled jobs, and of course more dedicated towards the infrastructure development jobs. So for job seekers itself, I think the biggest factor is that when you see these layoffs happening, always also think about, it's disheartening, it's discomforting. I know I've been in US, as I said before, 9 years, and I've got three jobs, and I've got laid off from each one of them.
Mhm.
So it is not a fun moment. It is not a happy moment at all. Your families back home in India, back home in Asian countries, and African countries, wherever you're coming from, it's difficult. But there is always a light at the end of the tunnel, because these layoffs always come back with a large number of openings, a large number of backfill roles, a large number of roles that are being heavily invested into what's going on in the market. And you have to keep
Right.
upskilling yourself. That's the goal. That's the way for it.
So I think that's a good segue into the next topic that I wanted to actually cover, because that's a frequent question that we get from our community, right at Pivot. A lot of folks are undergoing transitions in different forms and fashion, right?
Yeah.
Some of them have been laid off, but many of them just want to position themselves very strongly and strategically for their future career advancement, right?
Right.
Uh, so just solidifying their job prospects of in the future. So for both of those reasons, people have gotten into more of a habit of continuous learning and upskilling, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And we frequently get asked, what should I upskill in? How should I decide the areas which will help me, not just from a resume perspective, but
Hmm.
actually get the best opportunities and then perform well in those areas, right? So, how should I mean? I know you may not have specific industry focus as a career coach or a strategist. You might be dealing with professionals across different sectors, but let's say, I mean, we talk a little more about tech, since that's the major industry that a lot of immigrant professionals come to US for.
Hmm.
um and I know, like, some of my friends and ex-colleagues, they're more in consulting and other premium industries like finance, investment banking. So let's think about these premium industries: tech, finance, consulting. How should one go about understanding the paradigm shift that's happening from a skill requirement perspective? And once you have identified what are the right skills to focus on, then how do we go about upgrading our skill set effectively in that direction?
Okay. Okay. You have actually talked about something that I talk about in my coaching program, and this is the base of it on identifying your path, right?
Hmm.
And I think honestly, if you are in sales and marketing, it becomes a lot easier for you because you see the world through that lens of demand and supply. We as humans, we always think about doing something what suits us best, what we are good at, but we don't think what the market needs, what people need from us. It, it's just basic how human brain, how human psychology works, that we are good at something, we'll do that, right? Resumes are written on the basis of our history, not on the basis of what the companies want, what the job descriptions expect, right? So I think the only factor for people to understand how to tackle a paradigm shift, or how to still you know be relevant in this market or any market, is for the factor that always keep on doing two things, and in this market it's very important. The very first thing is keep yourself updated what's going on in the in the world, not just about technology, because AI is one factor for it, but there's also tons of factor which is now moving that skill. There's the availability of semiconductors, how things are moving with the supply chain industry. There's so many factors which are interlinked there. So these are the very first thing you should be aware about it. Even in the tech world, this, if you're thinking that you're just an amazing person who's very good at AI engineering, or you're a person who can master lead code, you're still not going to cut it, because it's gone to skill based hiring. It's not about anymore about the title or the role or what. So that's the first factor. The second and the most important one is what we do, and this is where that's why I made the comment for, if you are in sales and marketing, it's easier, is because when you know what your customer wants, you can build your product, or you can build your services around that. When we as job seekers, we go into the market, and this is also relating to how do we understand the paradigm shift, or how do we keep ourselves relevant. The only factor that we miss every time is we do not, while we are looking for jobs, and that's what you're talking about, we do not see what they're looking, what they're asking for. When a simple thing, Arjun, let me ask you, the very first time when you wrote your own resume, did you ever look at the job description? We just write a job description what we have, right? Sorry, Arjun, I think you're on mute.
Oops, sorry, my bad. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a good question. I don't think I may have looked. I mean, it's been a long time since I applied to my first job, but I think, yeah, I probably glanced over it. Mostly people focus on just the title, the company, maybe the first paragraph, but not like key sections and
Exactly.
requirements and all
Right.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is the, so you know and now you have an entire community where you're guiding people on their career development coaching, some things, so you also understand this. But when anyone gets into the market and they're looking for jobs, the very first factor is that you have to understand what they're looking for. Start with making a target list of companies, start with making the very first basic things of what you really want from your career.
Hmm.
It does not have to be always that you want to work with Fang, Mang, Mango, and whatever they're calling it now, but it has to be with that factor of what you want from it. You want to
Hmm.
work with Amazon or Microsoft or Apple or Nvidia, great, but do you know what they're working on? Do you know what technologies they're using? Do you know what skills are they use? If you're actually going there just for the brand of it, believe me, it will be very difficult if you're not able to position yourself for them.
Yeah.
The basic simple rule of sales is you position yourself to the customer. And for job seekers, the customer's job description.
Yeah.
Start with the target list of companies, start with the target industry. That's the first start. Then understand if these companies are even hiring for the skills that you have or that you want to develop. From there, then you niche it down more towards the point of how these industries and companies, with the roles and the skills that they're hiring for, what kind of details are they looking for? What are the top trends and skill set and experience do they look for in these job descriptions?
Yeah. So Rakshit, sorry to interject, but
Yeah.
I think all of these points are definitely valid.
Mhm.
I just would love to get a little more maybe specific so that people can understand exactly what they should do. So when you say, right, like try to understand the JD, try to understand what the company is looking for, whether your skill aligns with what they're, let's, I mean, you could either take an example or be like very specific in terms of, okay, this is how you think people should evaluate a JD. Like, what's the best way to
Sure.
evaluate the
Yeah.
JD?
No, absolutely. I think one thing, and this is I do this with my mentees all the time, and I'll talk about this example. The very first thing is when people are worried about ATS, they're worried about the keywords, but they don't look at the job description. So let's pick up let's pick up data analyst role for that example, right? You're looking for a data analyst role at Amazon, right? Now, when you're looking for this role at Amazon, the very first thing what you have in your resume, honestly, it doesn't matter if it's not matching the job description. That is why I think everyone has heard that tailor your resume to the job description. The basic reason for it so that you match to it. And ATS is a ghost we all have been fighting. Nobody really knows which company is using what ATS software. So I don't really want people to be chasing ATS because it's not going to take them anywhere every time. So start with Amazon data analyst role. And now don't look at just one job description. Look at probably pick up 5 or 10 job descriptions, multiple jobs, which aligns with the skills that you have, which aligns with the probably the kind of work you want to do. Because analytics could mean a lot of things. It could be in HR, it could be in finance, it could be in uh, supply chain, right? There could be tons of different areas that you work in. So you niche it down there, and then start with a very basic Excel, file, and on the left have those job descriptions, and on the right, read when you're reading the job description, start making the list of the top trends for each job description. When I say top trends, that means the top skills, top experiences that they're looking for, and the functional areas that they're looking for. And how do you identify these are the top trends? Is because you see how many number of times they're repeated in the job description. It's a very simple thing that you do, because you look at basic qualification, you look at preferred qualification, and everyone does that. But those initial paragraphs where they
Yeah.
talk about the company and the role, they're as important as as the qualification, because they tell you more about the role itself. They tell you more about the expectations of the company itself, and then there is that is the place where you'll find those top trends. Once you have a list of all these top trends and top skills experiences for yourself, then you identify that out of these 10 job or 5 job descriptions that you have looked into, now out of those 10 job description, identify which are the top trends out of those 10. Pick up like the top 5 technical skills, top 5 experience trends that they're looking for that particular role, and then functional areas or databases what they're looking for, right? Now what you have is an absolutely amazing list of those keywords which are important for your resume. Your resume and what you do is something which you anyway do. There you cannot change what you have done, but what you have to do is reposition yourself, and these are the top skills, and the what you need down with these job description is what you now have to look into your job resume, and now compare where are these skills listed in the job descriptions for you, how many times are there, what is the impact related to them, and not just for technical skills. Please don't ignore the so-called soft skills of cross-functional collaboration and senior leadership. These are, believe me, these are as so bloody important. You as I mentioned before, you cannot talk about only that I'm mastering lead code so I can get into Meta. Sorry, that's not gonna cut it.
Right.
They'll do one behavioral test for you, and you will have very big problems, because for these companies, behavioral interviews comes really at the very last of the factor of the interview, right? So they still
Mm.
care about it. No matter how great you have done in the previous 5 or 6 interviews of tech, of writing codes, building dashboards, if you're still not able to do the behavioral or the skill test, soft skill test, it's not going to work out for you. So once you have this list, you're comparing with the resume, and then the final thing comes that you understand that you already have these skills, you already have these trends in your resume. If you do, good enough. If you don't, then you have to identify two things: that is it because you already know them, you've worked on these, but you thought they're not important. If that's the case, go back and get them back in your resume. The second factor is, if you don't have these skills, you don't have that experience, now is the place. Now you identify which we were talking about earlier about paradigm shift and transition in your career and upskilling, is that these are the particular skills this is that is required by this company for this role, and this is what you need to upskill. So when
Mm.
anyone is looking for pivoting their career, transitioning, getting the new job market for first time, I always tell people that I understand it's not possible to tailor a resume every time for every job description, and I do not recommend that every time. But when you are writing a resume with this strategy, writing things on your LinkedIn with this strategy, this will help you to already be in that position that you next time when you are applying for even a role at Meta, you will not have to spend like 20 30 minutes or probably hours or 2 hours to tailor a resume, because now you have those skills already in your resume, and what you don't have, you're already upscaling on them. So you,
Right.
and this way you'll understand what's going on in the market, how you
Yeah.
keep yourself relevant. And don't do this, yeah, don't do this when you get laid off, when you are in PIP, or when you are looking for job.
In a desperate situation.
Yeah, don't do that, because
Right.
it's not going to help you. I mean, keep doing it, keep analyzing things every 3 months just to check how things are, and then move
Right.
with that.
It's
Yeah.
more of a long-term game rather than just, like you do it sporadically for like a week or something like
Yeah,
that and
it
expect
makes
some
you feel more
amazing results.
confident, right? It makes you feel more comfortable and
Yeah.
confident that if anything else, at least my resume is in place, at least my LinkedIn is active.
Yeah.
If anything goes south,
Absolutely.
you can just come back and start working again.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think definitely that hopefully has given people some insight and clarity as to how to evaluate the JD. I think the structured approach makes a lot of sense. Um, I had a follow up though, right?
Sure.
Like, so let's say we have done a great dissection of the JD, the company requirements. We have come up with like three skill areas which we currently lack or need to strengthen. What's the next step? How do I actually upskill? So obviously you're not again an industry expert, so you may not know specific courses for data analytics professionals, so to speak. But there are different types of upskilling that can happen
Mhm.
today, right? It's not a one size fit all. It's not like okay, everybody just go take that Coursera course or go do build a project
Yeah.
using like Kaggle on data analytics or something. Um, how does one decide whether a short course that is self-paced or let's say a more in-depth course that's live and instructor-led, or perhaps even just watching YouTube videos and building a project on your own in your free time? What is the right approach to actually do that? If you are, and I mean, the one context here is that I'm assuming that you won't always be able to upskill based on the organization
Yeah,
that you're working in,
absolutely.
because they may not necessarily spend learning and development investment uh, into that area that you want to upskill in
Hmm.
specifically.
Hmm.
Obviously, if that's an option, then I think most people would avail that because
Yeah.
it's going to be free of cost and uh, structured. But I think most people don't have that option. So how do they go about upskilling once they have identified the areas they should be focusing on?
I think the biggest factor of upskilling is that with with this entire exercise is you get to know where you are at and what kind of probably advanced level you want to go with that, right? Because when it comes to upskilling, as you mentioned, there are tons of platforms and courses and things available. But the very first thing which as we as job seekers do when it comes to upskilling, and this is one thing I tell people not to do not to do ever. And all the other platforms that you mentioned, Coursera or YouTube and all these things, all the other platforms, I think this is something that people will have to identify for themselves what kind of level of expertise they want to go, and of course start small and then go bigger, then keep understanding. I'll get to the part of how you get to do more. But then one thing which I always tell people not to do is, please do not get into certifications. They are absolutely useless. They're not going to give you anything. You becoming an Azure certified professional or a Tableau specialist or a Salesforce administrator, a mere certification is not going to change your trajectory of your career. Certifications are only important if they are a compliance issue for the role or a company. If you're getting into tax audit and these things, there are different certifications for it. If you're getting into compliance, there are different certifications for it. So you doing Azure certification or Python certification or JavaScript certification, these certifications don't help. I believe me, I think Arjun, you have seen this as well. You see it every day on LinkedIn, and the that LinkedIn post goes on for like 1,000 words. All, and they're thanking different people. I understand that you're
I'm
trying to.
thrilled to share that
Exactly, I'm thrilled
I
to
have.
share, I'm excited to share. And every time I feel like, okay, and I'm like, I sometimes I wonder what kind of post would they write when they actually get a job. So it's just that you doing these certifications is not adding value to it unless you really want to do it. Certifications will not give you value. Experience, skill set in the projects or the real experience that you work with them will give you that value. And that is what will make you upskilled.
Right.
Having upskill, I don't think there's any, one way to upskill yourself. There are tons of ways, as you said. YouTube is there, Coursera is there, LinkedIn learning courses. Then companies where if you're working with a company or at your university, they have their own learning courses that are freely available. So always remember that if something is expensive, does not have to be good. Certainly,
Right.
certifications are not. But then the second factor is when you are doing these certifications, at the end of them, if you're actually so interested in putting those 10 certifications in the resume, at the end of each certification there's a project related to it. On your next LinkedIn page, on your next learning, on your next factor of upskilling, if you want to show the world what you've done, talk about that project, talk about that experience, talk about that simple assignment which probably you did it for your class in 2 hours. That will build your skills much more than you think about spending 30 hours on a certification which will ask you for $500 and not give you anything in relevance, right? Now, coming to the part of how you decide or how do you upskill is related to the factor of how much do you know about a particular technology, skill, and the company. And to know about that as well, you got to start talking to people. I know networking is something that everyone has heard so many times. Their ears might bleed to death that, oh my God, I'm hearing networking again. But don't think about it as networking. Just think about it as talking to someone and learning from them. Job search is simply, if it's a very casual and open out world, you can simply relate job search to sales and marketing and dating. That's what it is.
Mhm.
You're doing the same thing on a dating app and you're doing the same thing on LinkedIn. You're trying to reach out to people. There your goal is to get a date. Here your goal is to get an interview or conversation. Don't But those expectations of, no, I really want to get it, is not always going to cut it for you. Make a probably a priority list for yourself. I A friend of mine, my buddy and roommate, he called it a pyramid, and we called it networking pyramid. It doesn't sound very good in this world of multi-level marketing and all the network marketing things, but it started with, when you're talking to someone, start the very least priority or the very first step at the bottom of the pyramid is probably get to learn one thing about the culture of the company, or one new skill about
Right.
the company. Or up the chain, you get an opportunity to talk to this person on a phone call. Or up the chain is you get on a lunch or coffee with them. You get to understand and meet in person what you have done, what they've done in their career, what kind of skills they're using, what kind of experience do they have. And this really builds your own profile and understanding that, okay, what you are actually looking for is what relevant for the market. If it is, then with these people who are actually working in the industry, they give you a lot of perspective about until what is the scope of this, what is the scope of the skill, and until where do you have to level up. You may have been already leveled up and you're just too scared to try it out. If you're really good for it, believe me, I understand that you're never too overdressed, never too over prepared. I get it, but if you do not try it out, it's just gonna be a waste. There's a very famous dialogue I remember from the movie Life in a Metro, when Irfan Khan said, if you do not get your car out of the garage, you'll never know if there's green light on the road.
Yeah.
Take the car
Yeah.
out. Take try it out. You'll run out of
Mhm.
gas, you'll hit 10 different cars, it's fine, but try different things. And when you start this networking scenario, it's not only for networking for people who, the people, they say, I'm introvert, extrovert, ambivert, whatever what you are. Networking is not about that you cannot talk to strangers. It's about upskilling your game for interviews. If you
Mhm.
can talk to a random stranger and make them your friend, that's what interview is about. You do that,
Yeah.
you upskill yourself in technology, you upskill yourself in terms of what people are looking for, and you get to know everything about the market. And it's the
Right.
easiest way to research.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's well said and different way to look at it. And definitely, I think a lot of people who are hesitant, I would say, especially people in the mid to senior levels, because, there's a sort of reluctance to ask for help
Yeah,
once you feel like, hey, I'm more accomplished and,
yeah,
I should have been able to do things on my own because that's how I've been doing it in the past. But I think what most people forget is like, number one, we always work in situations and in a world where it's all about give and take, right? It's not
yeah,
just you are isolated island in yourself. You always have to give back but also take help when it's needed. Many times people completely break down and that's when they go to ask for help, and that time again things become very difficult and desperate because you're looking for quick solutions and it doesn't match your expectation.
yeah,
So you give up on the idea altogether again because you're like, oh, I tried, it didn't work, so screw it, I'm just gonna go back to my isolated ways of doing things, which again is a sort of a downward spiral. So I do see where uh, people come from, why they hesitate. But I think the points that you have shared hopefully will give some insight into like why it's important, especially in the current environment and job market, to be more experimentative, to do things in a new manner which you may not have done before, because the rules of the game have changed today from a job market perspective, right? Portals don't work as well as they used to because of the amount of crowd of candidates that are on these platforms. So I think networking is definitely key. I do think a lot of people are starting to network based on the feedback
yeah,
they get,
yeah.
but they're not getting the results that they're hoping for. Even after, and I wouldn't like to be fair to them. A lot of times we talk about, oh, they don't have the right expectations and all that, and I get it. But to be fair to them, they have tried for like a month
I
or maybe
agree.
even 2 months. They're just feeling like burnt out because they're reaching out to
Yeah, I think
five,
Pata,
10 people
so
a
there's
day.
this is that I'm sorry I'm cutting you off. This is the biggest factor
Yeah,
that we all, when it comes to networking, we have got stuck to LinkedIn. It's a
yeah.
stupid chatting platform if you think about it.
Yeah.
It's not gonna give you anything.
Mhm.
It's people there. You connect with them. If they're free, they'll respond. If not, fine. But then what you're not looking around is actually people around you. I have done more networking in my life with the real people. When I was in school, I used to talk to my professors. I used to talk to people, probably previous alumni, and there are so many networking events that are happening around. If you don't think about that, sometimes you're not able to probably identify if this event is relevant for you, or if this is the event is into AI or finance or not. If it's not, I get it, but if you go and talk to someone who's maybe not in the field as well, please stay away from insurance agents and Amway and these kind of people. But then everyone else will still give you value. You know, it's just don't stick to one platform and one place and expect and keep waiting on the responses and lose hope. There are tons of way for it. Networking isn't about LinkedIn. It's about talking to people. You go out of your apartment, you go out of your house, and you see a random stranger, and we are in America. This is where you're talking about. A random stranger looks at you and they wave hi to you. They ask you how you're doing. We just do that and we walk away. Why don't you strike a conversation? You have to uncomfortable. You have to start doing things. Sitting on a laptop and trying and find jobs will not cut it.
Yeah. No, fair point. I think that's a good point. I just want to take the last few minutes to discuss something um, that we at Pivot have been thinking about very deeply when it comes to job search and transitions. Is that, see, the typical job market, like let's say 5 years ago, when things were slightly better, I guess, because
Yeah.
there were fewer layoffs and the demand supply dynamics were a little more at an equilibrium, right? So I think in that market, most people would come to us and say, okay, it's going to take me about 2, 3 months, maximum 4 months to get the opportunity once I start. Today, for especially mid senior levels, it's extended to beyond 6 months, sometimes
Yeah,
even up
no.
to 12 months,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And one of the reasons, again, is that the layoff situation has created a lot of imbalance in the job market. The skill requirements have evolved, so people are not being hired for old roles; they are being hired for the new requirements and new roles. And then the geopolitical landscape is changing. So a lot of things have reshaped the market, and because of that, the timelines and effort that one has to put in has also changed. Now, what we have thought about deeply is how do you tackle and navigate such a market, right? Which is not your traditional jobs market, which is either more employee friendly or sort of at an equilibrium.
Hmm.
Um, and one of the things that we have found out based on our experience working with about 9,000 plus professionals is differentiation, right? How do you differentiate yourself in the current job market in different ways, right? It could be your profile positioning, it could be how you create more visibility for yourself and your profile in the market, or certain other aspects. So, can you talk a little bit more about this, Rakshit, particularly where how does one, apart from the keyword alignment and ATS optimization, how does one come across as the best or the right fit for that company through differentiating their profile versus other hundreds of candidates who might have similar experience, similar skills, talking about the same achievements as you?
Okay. Yeah. No, this is a fair one. I think the first point that you brought up is the timeline that it takes, about 6 months to 12 months. To avoid that, the very first thing that we all should do is, no matter for a mid senior level or even students, if you're starting to look for job right after when things are starting to get bad, you've already lost a lot of time. Even if you have been working in the company for 5 years, 10 years, and now you're about to get laid off, or you got laid off and now you're starting, it will take 6 months, and that's how things are taking time. You know about this. I'm sorry, you're hearing this from your colleagues, you're hearing this from your friends, so you know about things that are happening. So why don't you just understand that this could happen to you? Start early, start now, start positioning yourself there, right? That's the first thing. If you start doing that, by the time something goes wrong, it will not be 6 months or 8 months or 10 months or 12 months for you. It may be just a month, because you're already in different processes. You're already talking to 10 different people. You're already in hiring processes, and things will be working out for you easier, right? The second factor is, when it comes to how do you differentiate yourself is, and I'll talk about LinkedIn on this particular factor, because that is one thing which people try to position themselves a lot. Don't focus on your GitHub profile. Don't focus on the websites that you're creating or your portfolio. I don't think I mean, really, recruiter and hiring managers do not have that kind of time to click on a link on your resume or your LinkedIn profile and see the things you've done. It's just a repetition redundance. I feel you have it great if you're able to explain it. That is where you create the difference. I constantly tell people that the place where you create that differentiation is you make yourself a brand. You make yourself something and someone who is the person for the market right now, no matter for what role and no matter for what niche you have. Start talking about and simply start talking about those things on LinkedIn. Start talking about the projects, the assignments, the assessments, the tasks that you're doing in your everyday job. This will not compete you with other candidates. This will make your own niche and this will make you the best in your niche. The world is the recruiters, the hiring managers, they don't want to compare you to other candidates. They want the best at what you do and what they're looking for. Don't worry about competing with your roommate or your friend or your colleague. No, that's not the goal here. You have to show what you are best at. You have to
Yeah.
position yourself in such a manner that you become the subject matter expert for your domain, your area, your points. And when you think about talking about LinkedIn, putting content on LinkedIn and creating that engagement strategy, create that engagement strategy very, systematically. If you want to do 3 or 4 posts a day, a week, then probably have one inspirational, motivational post. It's good to, and stories are sold in the world. Story is something which is, which connects people,
Yeah.
So that's one thing. But people still want to hear about the things that you do. So keep the rest three
Yeah.
posts in the week about what you have done. And you don't have to, think about, oh, what do I write? How should I write? Use those, the amazing AI tools you have in the market. Start with your resume bullet points. What you already have. First is the factor that you have to build your resume. Once you have that, then start with the very first bullet point you have of yours. You already may have 8, 10 bullet points in your resume. Start there. Ask ChatGPT, ask
Yeah.
Claude, ask these AI tools on how you can make a LinkedIn post which will share your work, which will make start with a hook, the body, have a call to action for people to engage, and eventually you'll be differential. You will be the person who is known for that place. We all have heard the part of, oh, he's a content creator, oh, she's an influencer, or he's an influencer, and these kind of things. They're not influencers. They're showing the what they're best at, what they really do. You have to start showing that on LinkedIn, and once that's happening there, and go out there go out there and talk to people. Find out people who are interested in these subjects, in talking about these subjects with you. You do that. It will take time, but to build the momentum, you will have to start early and start now. Don't think about that. I do not have my resume yet. Can I go and start talking to someone? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Start
Yeah.
wherever you can and start early.
Absolutely. I think very well structured insights and guidance there, Rakshit. I think we should move on to taking some
Yeah.
questions. I see
Yeah.
some folks have shared. I know we are almost up on a time, so we'll take just these two questions that have recently just come up. I know there might be more of you who want to ask, but we can probably cover them offline later. You can reach out to Rakshit or to us in case you would like. But the first question is from from Rohit, and I'm pulling it up here.
Okay.
So the question is that he reached out to a senior software engineer from Microsoft who was impressed with his profile and said he would be forwarding his resume, and that hopefully he may get a call. Now the question is, I have not applied to the role at Microsoft. Would I still get a call from the recruiter? What do you think, Rakshit? You've worked with
I
Microsoft.
have recently read a post from a recruiter at Amazon, and they said, please don't lose all your, please don't hang all your expectations on the person whom you're networking with. If they find your profile very interesting and referring you or reaching out to the hiring manager for you and doing all the stuff. The system doesn't work if you do not apply. My rule, my simple, very basic rule to all my mentees I work with, the people who are paying me thousands of dollars for this, I tell them this one very basic thing. You reach out to someone, if you already know a person in the company, you reach out to them for a referral. If they respond to you within 24 hours, that is like the highest limit you should wait for. If not, go ahead and apply it. And sometimes you're waiting for it, you do not have a referral, go ahead and apply first. If you don't know someone, you think this is an amazing role, please understand, networking is important, referrals are important, but they're not the only thing how people get jobs. I got my job at Amazon without any referral or networking. I simply applied. So please don't
Yeah.
do any such thing that you will just let all your hopes and expectations on the person who's trying to help you out. No, they have their, believe me, and this is nothing against some of the people whom you're networking and reaching out over there. Come on, they have their own jobs, they have their own work they're busy with, right? We have to understand and respect that factor as well. Great, follow up, understand how things are, but let's be very practical. If you already had a job and you are working, you're happy with your job, you're content, you're satisfied, would you ever open LinkedIn and, if you're really not interested in content and brand management, or actually want to talk about what you do, would you ever even open LinkedIn and talk to people? You will not, right? So
Mm.
don't wait on them. Get your actions in
Yeah.
place as well.
Yeah. I just want to add to that. One of the biggest things that we do at Pivot is actually connect you to professionals in your target roles
Mhm.
for networking and for referrals, for guidance, for different things, right? And we have seen a lot of good traction from folks who have good jobs and are not necessarily doing this because they are expecting something out of it, like
Yeah,
when they're helping others. I think they just do it because they wish somebody had helped them. um,
of course.
and you're right. I think, Rakshit, where I completely agree with you is that if you pin too much hope on any one person, you might get disappointed most of the times,
Yeah,
right? Or maybe even every time for a short duration. So it's not healthy to feel like one door is the answer to all your problems, or one person is the answer to all your problems. You have to try different things, a lot of which Rakshit has highlighted today. So this is one of them, which is networking with folks on LinkedIn or other community platforms. Um, we have, I mean, I'll give you a statistic, right? In our network, whenever we request for a referral or a candidate requests for a referral, firstly, it's not a transactional thing where we just go like, oh, give me a referral. You have to spend time to understand their requirements, they understand your profile. But after that, we have almost like a 30 to 35% success rate
yeah,
in referrals being given, which is not, I would say, more than 50%. That would be even better. But if you're getting one out of three referral requests as going through, that improves your chances of success
it
in the
definitely
job
does.
market.
Yeah, no, it definitely
Doesn't go
does.
from 0 to 100, but it might take you from, let's say, 1% to 10% kind of thing, you know.
Yeah,
So I think that is worth considering as well. I just want to add that point, with a lot of due importance to the point that Rakshit also made about not over depending on any one person. Let's go to the other question here. This one is something we have been getting a lot. So Rakshit, I'm sure you must have gotten this a lot.
yes,
Facing
most.
challenge at all service-based companies stopped sponsoring my H-1B. How do I get a full-time role? As it's not easy because there are a lot of people in the market. What can a person do in case of saving visa and searching for a job? So yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
if you have immigration related issues, how do you deal with it?
Talk to an attorney. Probably not me and Arjun. The very first thing that you everyone should do is, if you are in the US or any country you are, talk to an immigration attorney. I understand that we as students are on a very restricted and constrained budgets, but there are attorneys who do calls for free, who do calls for 30 minutes for $100. I have my attorney as well. If you want, I'll be happy to give you a referral for that. And with these conversations, when you reach out to an attorney for your immigration support before you get a job, is important, because you will have other options to find out. I got laid off I got fired, not laid off, from Microsoft this year in March. And the very first thing I did was to reach out to an attorney and get myself on an H4 visa. If you
Mm.
are currently if you are currently in the US, you do not have someone you can depend on for visa immigration details. You can, if you are on F1 or STEM OPT, you can continue that. Find, if you're on OPT, you can find a volunteering role. You can work with a professor at school; they'll be happy to do it. If you're in STEM OPT, you have to find some paid job to keep that relevant. But if you're on H1 already and you need more time to find a job, you can move on to B1 B1 B2 visa, and you do not have to file 10,000 different applications or filings for it. You can simply go to USCIS website and do it there directly. Change of
Mhm.
status is as simple job of 30 minutes to do it online by yourself. As you know, it's not as difficult that you think about it. But then please consult an immigration attorney. Career
Absolutely.
coaches, these platforms, we all are there, and I think Arjun would agree with this. We all are there to help and guide. We have our different platforms and ways, but when you're looking for some help, go to an expert. If you're looking for career help, maybe Arjun and I are the people for you. If you're looking for immigration advisors, we are not the people for you. We can probably share our own experience of what we have heard from different people, but
Right.
immigration, attorneys and experts are the people for you. So ask these questions to them. Find out those people.
Yeah, I think definitely completely agree. And also, if you're thinking about like what is the best job search strategy in such a situation, then I think reaching out to perhaps Rakshit or a platform like Pivot could be also helpful. But definitely understanding the implications of the change in your job status and how to navigate this situation from a immigration standpoint, I think that is something that definitely an attorney would be better equipped to help you with. I know that suddenly, there are a lot of more questions that have come up. Unfortunately, we have to wrap this up. I would love to continue, but I have another commitment that I need to get started with. I'm sure, Rakshit, you have other things
Yeah,
planned for the day as well. So I just want to take a moment firstly to thank Rakshit for joining us and sharing a lot of great insights. I think, your specialization or like the thing that I really liked about your insights is they came from a place of experience, a lot of them, right? It wasn't just some like theory that you have studied online and sort of copy pasted. I think a lot of it is lived experience. It comes across very in a very vivid and kind of palpable manner. You can feel that what you are saying you have lived. So I appreciate that a lot. um, I would say, folks, I think there's Akansha, there's Shruti, there is Rahul. You've all shared a lot of questions just now. Please reach out to Rakshit. He has shared his, company's name also, which is the Indian Coach, and he is also tagged in the posts that we did on LinkedIn. Please reach out to him, connect with him, see if there is something more you can get out of a conversation with him. You can also check out our platform, Pivot. It is at mypivot.work, in case you think anything from a tool perspective or community perspective could be helpful for you there. But apart from that, once again, appreciate, Rakshit, your time and our audience's time who joined today. I hope we got some good insights that we can take away and apply towards our job search.
sure. Thank you so much for having me, Arjun. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining the call today. Really appreciate it. And please feel free to reach out to that Indian coach, and we'll be happy to answer all your questions. Thank you.
Yes. All right. Happy job searching, everyone.
Thanks.